This time I want to talk to you about House Stark, covering some introductory knowledge, as well as deeper discussions to gradually guide everyone's understanding. First, the main seat of House Stark is Winterfell, and their family motto is, "Winter is coming." Their sigil features a wolf running across the icy plains, which is why House Stark is also known as the Wolf House. In the story of A Song of Ice and Fire, the main members of House Stark include the head of the family, Eddard Stark, commonly referred to as Ned. He is the Lord of Winterfell and bears the responsibility of guarding the north. His wife is Catelyn Tully from House Tully, and they have 5 children: Robb, Sansa, Arya, Bran, and Rickon. Additionally, Ned has a bastard son, Jon Snow. Although the series has revealed his true identity, we will consider him a bastard for now. The original text has not made it explicit, but it can be said to be quite close to the truth. Theon Greyjoy, as the adopted son of Ned Stark, is technically a hostage rather than just an adopted child. However, the Stark family does not treat him poorly, and does not see him merely as a hostage. The sigil of the direwolf symbolizes ferocity and unity, while also embodying a certain elegance. The image of the direwolf evokes a sense of strength against the harsh cold. Ned Stark famously taught his children, "When the snows fall and the winds blow, the lone wolf dies but the pack survives." This statement emphasizes the importance of unity. In the book, although Ned's children are scattered far and wide, like lone wolves, their hearts remain closely connected, and they will eventually reunite one day. While the series may not have presented itself as ideally as one might hope, we can still hold expectations for the original work. Winter is Coming serves not only as a warning for every generation of Stark descendants, reminding them not to indulge in pleasure, but also to always be prepared for the harsh winter and sudden disasters. This phrase carries profound significance in real life as well. So, just how powerful is House Stark? They are a leading noble house among the 7 kingdoms, the Lords of the North, with numerous vassals such as the Bolton, Manderley, Dustin, and Mormont families. These are some basic details. Next, I would like to explore a few questions. First, can House Stark be considered the protagonist of this work? In A Song of Ice and Fire, identifying a protagonist is indeed a challenging task. This work is distinctly different from the novels we commonly encounter. It does not have a clear protagonist or just 1 or 2 main characters. Instead, the character portrayal is highly dispersed, employing a point-of-view (POV) writing technique. Each chapter unfolds from the perspective of a character, with the first chapter being from Bran's viewpoint, the second from Catelyn's, and the chapter titles directly named after the characters. There are a total of 8 POV characters in the work, with 6 members of House Stark. In terms of chapter count, the first volume contains 72 chapters, and the Stark characters feature prominently in 53 of those chapters, accounting for about 75%. Undoubtedly, House Stark is the family with the most prominent role at the beginning of the book, but this proportion is not fixed. By the second volume, it drops to 58%. By the time we reach the third volume, House Stark's representation drops to 52%. As we know, House Stark faces several setbacks in the third volume, leading to a drastic decline to just 13% in the fourth volume. However, it rebounds to 25% in the fifth volume. If we consider the fourth and fifth volumes as part of the same narrative period, the overall representation can still be maintained at around 20%. It's akin to investing in stocks. If you went all in on House Stark in the first volume, even leveraging your investment, you might find yourself feeling a bit resentful during the fourth and fifth volumes. Yet, if you simply enjoy the story of this family in moderation, it can still be quite enjoyable. After all, while George Martin shows no mercy to the fates of any family, the blows to House Stark are evidently the heaviest. Of course, this is just the situation in the first 5 volumes, Volumes 6 and 7 may bring some improvement, and readers are generally looking forward to this change. Jon Snow, Daenerys Targaryen, Tyrion Lannister, and Arya Stark. Look, 2 of them belong to House Stark. If we consider Jon as part of House Stark, this leads us to the next question: just how strong was Ned Stark in terms of combat? This question about Ned's fighting ability gradually emerged after discussions gathered momentum. In the original text, Ned is not particularly known for his martial prowess, but the series has given him quite a bit of screen time, which is understandable, as actor Sean Bean is quite skilled in fight scenes, having portrayed Boromir in The Lord of the Rings. Therefore, seeing him clash multiple times with a master like Jaime Lannister certainly raises expectations for their confrontations. Later, Ned's confrontation with Jaime unfolds in the series. Although this fight is not depicted in the original text, the scene raises the audience's expectations for Ned's combat skills. Next, let's talk about Robb Stark. In fact, Robb is not particularly known for one-on-one duels. There are no scenes in either the book or the show where he fights alone. He excels in leading troops into battle, and his spirit of leading from the front makes him stand out on the battlefield. Robb's command abilities are top-notch, even unparalleled, as he achieves victory after victory without a single defeat. From Tyrion's perspective, we can see his high regard for the young Wolf Lord's military talent and strategy. At the end of the first volume, the War of the Five Kings begins, with Robb leading his army south, showcasing his exceptional leadership skills. Robb's tactics were truly unconventional and effective. He cleverly split his forces into 2 paths, successfully confusing Tywin and Jaime. He then led his cavalry south like lightning, capturing Jaime, which took Tywin completely by surprise. Following this, in the battle to relieve Riverrun, these 2 engagements drastically shifted the tide, putting the previously dominant Tywin in an unprecedented disadvantage, leaving him even without the standing to negotiate for peace. Jaime and Tywin quickly became mere background figures to Robb. This illustrates how Robb's formidable reputation rapidly shook all of Westeros. Yet this was merely the dramatic beginning. As time passed, everything Robb gained on the battlefield ultimately unraveled off the battlefield, resulting in a total loss, both principle and interest. Some might ask, was Robb truly foolish? Or was Ned equally foolish? I, however, hold a different perspective on this matter. I actually have some profound thoughts on the choice of the wedding and the conspiracy involving House Frey and Tywin. This issue is complex and subtle, and cannot be simply broken down. Perhaps we can delve into it in a future episode. For now, let's turn to the third question and explore a bit deeper into the history of House Stark. Is their ancient and noble lineage truly 8,000 years old? How did all of this come about? Here we must mention the author George Martin, who, while writing the history of A Song of Ice and Fire, employed a vague and uncertain narrative style. Many aspects are worthy of our scrutiny, and the accounts of dates are particularly varied. It can be said that the further back we go from the timeline in the books, the harder it becomes to verify the history. The more ancient the history, the harder it is to verify. We need to focus on 3 key time points. The first time point is the conquest, a relatively clear period that occurred in 298 AC, before the main events of the story. During this time, the conqueror Aegon unified the 7 kingdoms, with the north ruled by House Stark. At this moment, the last king in the north, Torrhen Stark, knelt before Aegon the Conqueror in submission. While kneeling, he was still the king in the north, but upon rising, he became the Duke of Winterfell, taking on the responsibility of guarding the north. Establishing this time point paves the way for our understanding of the subsequent history. Looking back, the second significant time marker is the Undul invasion of Westeros. The exact timing of this event remains somewhat unclear, with various claims suggesting it occurred 6,000, 4,000, 2,000, or even 1,000 years ago. Among these, the 4,000-year claim is the most popular, originating from the official history, although this history is merely a fictional account within the books, and the identity of its author is also somewhat ambiguous, possibly just a record by some scholar. However, the existence of such a book lends a certain authority to this claim. Therefore, we can tentatively accept the 4,000-year timeline for the Undul invasion as the most widely accepted, even though it may not be the most accurate. The claims of 2,000 and 1,000 years are also worthy of consideration. Why is this time marker so important? Because before the Undul invasion, the continent of Westeros was inhabited only by the first men and the children of the forest, with faith limited to the old gods, and the worship of the heart's faith was as widespread as the weirwood trees across the land. During that period, the North was not solely dominated by House Stark. The greatest rival of House Stark is House Bolton, a family with a long history. Around the time of the Undul invasion, House Bolton once knelt and surrendered to the Starks, subsequently unifying the North. However, in the years that followed, the Boltons rebelled multiple times, and it wasn't until the last 1,000 years that they relatively peacefully submitted to House Stark. Therefore, it is easy to understand why viewers see the Bolton family seizing the opportunity to betray the Starks again, successfully rising to power and temporarily becoming the guardians of the North. The time during which House Stark unified the North coincides almost exactly with the Undul invasion, which is accurately stated to be 4,000 years ago, while the third significant time marker can be traced back to the Long Night 8,000 years ago. The tales of the Age of Heroes have become increasingly blurred with the passage of time, resembling legends or folklore passed down through generations. However, the significance of this era lies in the fact that the first king of House Stark emerged during this period, Brandon the Builder. Many great deeds are attributed to him in the legends, the most renowned being his collaboration with the Children of the Forest to magically construct the wall, intended to fend off the return of the White Walkers. Additionally, Brandon oversaw the building of Winterfell, and it is said that he also taught the first Storm King, Durin, how to construct Storm's End in the Stormlands, although this claim primarily originates from the traditions of the North. The people of the Stormlands may not fully agree with this notion, but it is evident that such grand constructions could not have been accomplished by a single generation alone. Therefore, this builder, Brandon, likely embodies the achievements of multiple Stark kings. One could argue that if the tale of the Long Night occurred 8,000 years ago, then the history of House Stark could also trace back to that time, suggesting that they may have even ascended to kingship 8,000 years ago. However, another fact undermines the credibility of these ancient legends. Before the arrival of the Unduls, some of the early inhabitants left no written records, as they had neither pen nor paper, only carving runes into stone, akin to our ancient oracle bone script, although they may have inscribed many symbols as well. Long-winded as it may be, the limited space means that most legends have been passed down orally, including those from the Age of Heroes 10,000 years ago and even earlier from the Dawn Age. Written records emerged after the arrival of the Unduls, who brought with them a writing system supplemented by learned monks and scholars. This information is mentioned from Sam's perspective in Volume 4, and given his academic level, it should be relatively credible. However, despite some questioning the reliability of these histories, there are still genuine events, such as the invasion of the White Walkers, which are documented in the text. The construction of the wall likely occurred afterward, closely tied to the formation of the Night's Watch, and the Stark family may have played a role in its building. Of course, the construction of the wall remains a mystery to this day. Supernatural factors seem to play a more significant role in it. As for whether these events occurred 8,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago, or 4,000 years ago, opinions vary. Reflecting on these three key time points is not only crucial for House Stark, but also holds profound significance for many other families. When we discuss other families later, we will continue to reference these three time points. Additionally, there is an important Stark lord in history, Cregan Stark from the Dance of the Dragons, who later became known as the Old Man of the North. In the television series House of the Dragon, he is portrayed by Tom Taylor, and we will delve deeper into this in the future. That concludes this episode. We'll see you next time, and thank you all for listening.